Welcome to the Ice Guys, presented by the Hockey Podcast Network, Sunday, February 28th. Ian Cameron and Alex B. Smith along for the ride to break down the short Sunday NHL slate. As of this recording, we already have one game in progress, one game already underway between the Boston Bruins and the New York Rangers, the NBC game on this Sunday. I think all of us in some fashion either bet or lean toward Boston in regulation in this game. I know I have a couple bucks on it, even though it's not really an official play for me, sprinkled on it. Didn't feel great about the value. I mean, it was minus 110 in that game, but obviously Bruce Cassidy pretty critical, Brad Marchand pretty critical of their team's last two performances against the Islanders and the Rangers. You would think they'll play a little bit better. We'll see. That game just underway now. We'll move on now to the rest of the card. The rest of the games, 3 p.m. Eastern and onward. We'll start with the Columbus Blue Jackets and the Nashville Predators. Nashville minus 130, home favorites, 5.5 the total in this game. The Columbus Blue Jackets could not find any offense whatsoever yesterday against the Nashville Predators. A tough loss, 2-1 into the Preds in that game. Nashville picking it up a little bit. I don't think you want to go crazy that, whoa, Nashville's red hot, but have started to play at least a little bit better. You know, 3 of their last 4 games they've won. We'll see how it goes here in this one against Columbus. Obviously, I think a lot of us liked the Jackets yesterday, and we took the brunt of it thanks to them in that one. But you look at back-to-back stats, Nashville hasn't been great, just 1-2 on back-to-backs. Columbus is actually 2-1. Nashville's not done any kind of good job winning consecutive games against the same team. That's been something that has completely been impossible for this Predators team to do. I don't know if it's lack of focus. I don't know if it's just they're not good enough to play just as well the next game. That's probably what it is more than anything. But they just haven't had a very good track record of being able to beat that same team twice in a row. Matthias Ekholm, certainly a guy that they're happy to have back in the lineup. I don't know if they envisioned him to score 2 goals yesterday for the Nashville Predators in his return, but definitely getting him back on the blue line helps this team a little bit. Columbus is going to be looking to shake up their forward group going into this game. Looks like John Tortorella going to have Patrick Laine, Nick Foligno, Oliver Bjorkstrand on the top line, Boone Jenner, Jack Roslovic, Cam Atkinson on the second line, and bumping Alexander Tessier down to the third line. I actually like what Tortorella's doing here because Tessier's been kind of a disappointment. Not kind of, he has been. They need a lot more out of him offensively. They just haven't gotten it here in this game. Goaltending, we're not sure who's going to be in net because we know for the Jackets, Merzlikins is on the IR. So you're looking at Vinai Vevalainen potentially in net here for the Jackets. I don't know if they'll go that route. Korpisalo has started back-to-back games before. I would think that's probably where Torts goes from a goaltending standpoint. Saros yesterday in net for the Predators. So do we see Pekka Rinne today? Perhaps. I'm gonna go on to Columbus one more time here. I know they've driven me nuts lately. I understand that, but they've had better back-to-back numbers than Nashville this year. Nashville's not shown any sort of ability to win multiple games against the same team. Granted, they are playing better, and you could say, yeah, Columbus is definitely in a bit of a funk right now, but I like the line adjustments that Torts has made. I think putting Laine with a guy like Foligno, the guy that can do the physical work, free up the puck, get time and space for his line mates, that I think could be something that works pretty well for Columbus here today and moving forward if Tortorella sticks with those lines. So I'm going to go with Columbus here one more time, even though they've been a frustrating team to back a couple of times for me this week. But for me, one more time, let's go back to the well. Blue Jackets here at plus 115. Alex, what's your thoughts here, Columbus, Nashville?
Yeah, I'm staying far away from this game. They, like I said, I've been on Columbus in the last 2 contests, and they've just completely fallen flat. They've lost 6 of their last 7 games now. Like you said, yeah, they need to shake some things up, but I feel like, the spark that we saw from Roslovic and Laine, has kind of settled, fizzled out a little bit. He says now they're going to try and make some changes, but I don't think, that should be enough to beat this Nashville team. Still not high on them at all. It wasn't like they had a dominating performance in that 2-1 win. Like I said, most of their victories this year haven't been dominant performances since going back to early in the season, but this is just one of those games I'm definitely just going to, not look at anything. Maybe take a shot in game. This is a national game, be on the NHL Network here in the U.S., but more than likely, I'm just going to stay off of it the whole time.
All right, so a pass for Alex in that one. Yeah, when you look at these two teams here, I'm going to just bring it up here. Always like to look, the post-mortem, especially when you've got these games where you've got teams that are playing each other essentially for the second straight day. You always like to go back and see just how the flow of play was in the previous game, which between these two teams was on Saturday afternoon. So when you look at it in terms of Columbus, Nashville yesterday, there's no doubt Columbus in that game probably deserved a little bit of a better fate because they lost 2-1, but expected goal margin in their favor, high danger chances in Columbus's favor in that game. That's what got me to Columbus today. I'm not in love with trusting them either because they've burned me a couple times. But when I looked at yesterday's game and you dig into the really advanced numbers, like the expected goal margin and like high danger chances, Columbus generated more than Nashville yesterday, despite the 2-1 loss. They had the expected goal margin advantage in that game, despite the 2-1 loss. And what that means with the expected goal margin is based on the quality of chances both teams got. That's what it's about. Based on the quality chances that both teams got, Columbus probably should have scored more goals than Nashville yesterday. It didn't. That's not how hockey works, though. We know that all too well. Nashville ended up getting the victory, but just something to look at. And I find especially with these teams playing each other again and again, you'll see that I like to back the team that had those better numbers in those expected goals categories and high danger categories when they lost the previous game. Kind of tells you that they deserved a better fate and are more than capable of bouncing back and winning the rematch. And hopefully we see that today with Columbus. Next game, Philadelphia-Buffalo. I don't know if Buffalo is capable of bouncing back and winning this rematch. We've got the Flyers minus 165 to minus 170, road favorites, total 5.5 here, slightly shaded to the over in this game here. I mean, for the Buffalo Sabres, it was just another dreadful game for them yesterday against the Philadelphia Flyers, a Philly team that we talked about going into that game against the Sabres yesterday, getting healthier. Confidence coming back. They're getting a lot of their artillery back in the lineup. Scott Laughton, Oscar Lindblom, Jacob Voracek. Those are the three guys that came back yesterday. They all got on the score sheet. Laughton scored. Lindblom and Voracek each had an assist. So again, you've got a Philly team that's much closer to full strength now. That's going to help them moving forward. And still going into today, no changes. The only main contributor to this Philadelphia Flyers team that's still out is Travis Konechny. He is still on the reserve list. Other than that, everybody's accounted for, and everybody's back in the lineup for Alain Vigneault and this Philadelphia Flyers team. Brian Elliott, very good in net yesterday. They're going to rest him today. It'll be Carter Hart getting the nod in goal for the Flyers against the Sabres. What Buffalo does for their goaltending is going to be very interesting. We know Linus Ullmark is out indefinitely, and we know Carter Hutton started yesterday. And we have a Bruins goal against the Rangers, by the way, 1-0 for Boston against New York. They just took the lead. But yeah, it was Carter Hutton in net for the Sabres in the Saturday game against the Flyers. Do they come back with Carter Hutton on Sunday's game here, or do they go with Jonas Johansson in net, who would get the start here for the Buffalo Sabres? When you look at Johansson, he really hasn't played that much. He's only action this season. He stopped 8 of 9 shots, replacing Carter Hutton when he got injured back on January 19th. And actually, that was a game against Philadelphia as well. So that's about it. So he hasn't even started a game yet this year. He's come in relief, but he hasn't started a full game yet. So the bottom line is I don't like Hutton and his game. I think he was not very good at a couple of those goals yesterday, kind of going through him, stuff you don't like to see. And if it is Johansson today for the Sabres, the guy that hasn't started a game yet, can you really think can you really firmly say with confidence, oh, this guy's going to really shut the door today? I'm not so sure about that. I cashed with Philly in regulation yesterday. I'm going to go back to that very same bet today. I just think, they've now got their guys back, except Konechny, but everybody else back. And the Buffalo Sabres, and no Eichel probably again today as well for the Buffalo Sabres at this point in time. He is day-to-day. I haven't ruled him out completely, but the fact he didn't play yesterday has me thinking there's probably not a good chance he plays today in this game either. So Philly in regulation is right around that same price it was yesterday, around minus 110 in this game, that's probably the way I would go, and just expect the Flyers, the better hockey team, to beat a team that's just struggling and can't get out of their own way. What do you think here, Alex? Flyers versus Sabres?
Yeah, I was on it yesterday, and I'm going to go right back to it as well. Like you mentioned, Buffalo's in a world of trouble without Eichel. He's obviously the key focus and leader of that team. Having him day to day, and like I said, things weren't going well when he was in the lineup beforehand, and then you add the fact that Olmark is out. It said at least a month from what I was reading. So now your best goaltender and your best scorer out. That just spells doom for Buffalo right now. Like I said, Philly's getting guys back healthy. They're 8-2-1 this season as a favorite. So like I said, we can knock that price down 40, 50 cents and grab them, at a pick 'em range. Definitely want to go with that. But one thing about Jonas Johansson, looking at his numbers from last year in Rochester, the AHL, and even the year before, he's in the East Coast League with Cincinnati. He's actually put up some fairly decent numbers. He went 14-4-3 with a 2.28 goals against in Rochester last year. So he's a guy that might actually throw a wrinkle in some plans if we see him start. Eventually, we're probably going to see him start within this month, obviously, with Olmark being out. And if teams don't really have a book on him, he could steal a win or two potentially. But even if he plays in this one, I don't think this will be the game for. I think this will be a time where Philly will be able to light the lamp. So I like the Flyers in regulation.
Yeah, and Buffalo's got issues. I mean, the Jeff Skinner benching, even though he was back in the game yesterday, caused a ruckus within the organization. They're just not getting enough from some high-priced talent. Skinner's one. Taylor Hall, I mean, they've gotten bubkas essentially from him this season. One goal. That's not good. That's definitely not what you want to see from a guy that you brought in here in the offseason as a free agent. Eric Stahl had a nice start to the season. He's cooled off. It's just there's a lot of players you could point to. I mean, thank goodness for Sam Reinhart and for Victor Olofsson. They're the guys that have kept the offense afloat here for the Buffalo Sabres this year. And the power play their 5-on-5 offense really hasn't been all that great, but they've really had a good power play at times this year. And that's what's really been the catalyst for any goal scoring production this team has had this season. The next game, also an afternoon game, also a 3:00 game. We've got a trifecta of games at 3 p.m. Eastern this afternoon. Washington Capitals, New Jersey Devils. We've got Washington about -140, road favorites here in Jersey, total 6 across the board here. The New Jersey Devils, just a dreadful start, and although they played better and although they really took the game to the Capitals as it went on, you just can't dig yourself that big of a hole and expect to get out of it. And New Jersey found that out the hard way in that loss yesterday to the Washington Capitals. They'll look to bounce back here this afternoon against the Capitals this time around. Will they be bouncing back with Nico Hischier on the ice is a question. He took a puck to the face yesterday in the game against the Capitals, exited the game. Lindy Ruff saying after the game he's not sure how severe it is, just did not really give any indication one way or the other if he's going to be day-to-day, out for a period of time, but looks like it's day-to-day right now for him. We'll see if the newly minted captain of the Devils is able to be in action and in the lineup today for them against Washington. Certainly that would help. I'm leaning over the total in this game. These two teams have played overs against each other head-to-head. Another over yesterday, the game last Sunday, which was on NBC from Washington. That game went over the total as well. And you look at the goaltending matchup here, you could be looking at Ilya Samsonov in goal for Washington for the first time in forever. Not for sure, but you could see him back. And for New Jersey, you might be looking at Farmer in the Dell because of the fact that we saw Mac Blackwood yesterday get the start against Washington. And Aaron Dell's, journeyman backup is what he played pretty good actually against Washington last week, but the longer that game went on, Capitals started to find some holes, started to figure them out. So if we get a Dell versus Rusty Samsonov, even if we get Dell versus Vanacek and they go back to him again today, I think we'll see both teams find the back of the net. I'm going to go over 6 here, -120 with the Capitals and Devils. Alex, what's your take here on this one with Washington and New Jersey?
Yeah, just a lean here with Washington in regulation. They've won 7 of the last 10 meetings here. He said picked up the 5-2 win last night, and this is just a Devils team. Like you said, they still got a lot of things they have to figure out. Where Washington, it was just a matter of getting back in rhythm after having the time off with the the COVID issues and different things. He said their goaltending still an issue. Like he said with Samsonov. It'll be interesting to see, how they get their rotation off, fully formed as far as the net goes moving forward. But this would be a good game here to kind of test that thing out. And then, just like I said, I just don't trust New Jersey really, and even with the over, I worry about them because they've gone over, but it was mostly Washington doing the heavy lifting in that. I worry about them having to try to score, 3 or more goals in a game. So it's just a lean with Washington in regulation.
All right, lean to the Caps in regulation for Alex in that game. On we go. Pittsburgh, New York Islanders. We've got the Islanders -110 to -115, home favorites, 5.5 the total in this one. It's now been a couple weeks. Like I said, we've talked about this multiple times here on the Ice Guys show about the front office shakeup in Pittsburgh. Brian Burke, now the president of hockey operations, and then you had Ron Hextall brought in as the GM. And I think since that time, this team has lost, I think, just once over that span. So this is a Pittsburgh, and they found a way to rally from behind. It's not easy to come back from a deficit against this Islanders team, not the way they're structured defensively, not the way they play tight, sound defensive hockey under Barry Trotz, but give the Pittsburgh Penguins a lot of credit. Came back, forced overtime, and then won the game in overtime by a score of 4-3. So the Pittsburgh Penguins, not a team I'm in a rush to go against here. I know the Islanders are now the team that's in the revenge situation, I guess you could say, here in the back-to-back against Pittsburgh here, but the Penguins are definitely looking to put that foot forward and that message to the new brass that, hey, we think we're a playoff team. We want another shot at not only being a playoff team, but maybe making a run in the playoffs with this core group: Crosby, Malkin, who's played better lately as well, and Letang. So it's a team that's playing with a lot of purpose right now. And that's a pretty dangerous thing right now for opposing teams. Sidney Crosby scoring the goal. Looking at this Pittsburgh team, he's played a lot better and bounced back as of late as well for this Pittsburgh team. Just a lot of good vibes from them. They've played better defensively as well. That's been part of the reason for optimism. Tristan Jarry sort of settled in after a rough start. Defensively, they've played at least a little bit better. I still don't think they're great by any stretch on the defensive end, but they were a nightmare at the beginning of the season, and they've definitely made strides from that point on. These two teams have trended over the total a lot, and that's the lean for me in this game, is over 5.5. From a goaltending situation, Casey DeSmith is going to be in net for the Penguins. He hasn't played in a while. His numbers are okay. They're not spectacular. A sub-900 save percentage this season for DeSmith coming into this game, which is nothing all that great. It was Varlamov last night. It could be Ilya Sorokin tonight. Same thing with him. I mean, certainly a guy with a lot of potential, high upside, but kind of struggled to be consistent here in his opening salvo in the NHL. So you got two goalies that not exactly locked down potentially by any stretch of the imagination. Like I said, we've seen these two teams, oddly enough, trend over the total. I think one of their games, the one before last night's game, stayed under. Other than that, it's been pretty heavy to the over, these two teams. The total's only 5.5. That would be the way I would lean here, over this total here with the Penguins and Islanders. Alex, anything for you here with Pittsburgh and the Islanders?
Just to lean with the regulation draw. We saw them go into overtime last game, and now it's been 5 of the last 8 meetings between the two teams that have gone into overtime, and of the 3 that didn't, 2 of those were games that were decided by 1 goal. So they play each other super tight. Like I said, whether it's low scoring or high scoring, they always kind of keep pace with one another. Casey DeSmith, he is 3-0 against the Islanders. Like I said, the last start he got was a win against the Islanders. He made 26 saves, facing 29 shots. The game also going into overtime actually was a shootout win for the Penguins. Like you said, they're moving, well and kind of getting things a little bit back in order. But and as mentioned in the chat room, the Islanders have done very well under Trotz in the second of back-to-back games, 18-3-2. Since Trotz got to Long Island. So, like I said, the sides cancel each other out for me. It would just be a lean toward the regulation draw.
Yeah, I wouldn't talk anyone out of the Islanders. I'm just, like I say, I'm just for now pumping the brakes on fading Pittsburgh because I like the vibes that team has going right now. Not saying that they can't lose tonight, but definitely that's why I would stay off the Islanders. But I understand the reasoning in terms of their back-to-back record. They lost last night. They've been a pretty good bounce-back team. I definitely can see it, but just not in a rush to fade the Penguins right now. Yes, someone in the chat mentioning Terry, our good friend there, who tunes us in a lot. Devils are 7-1 their last 8 Sunday games, so they've been excellent in Sunday games, no question. But the reason I like the over more is because Washington's offense is going right now. They've got everybody back. The goaltending, Aaron Dell in net, he could be in net. No, I wouldn't want to back New Jersey with him. I just wouldn't want to. And I think Washington could find the back of the net with him if he is indeed the goal. It hasn't been confirmed yet. Maybe it is Blackwood 2 days in a row, but I would think it's probably going to be Aaron Dell. And I'd go for goals more than the New Jersey side if that is indeed the case. All right, so that is the afternoon games. All those games we just talked about here on the show are all matinee affairs. We've got the last game on the slate tonight. It's the only night game on this Sunday slate. It's the Detroit Red Wings and the Chicago Blackhawks. Chicago minus 185 to minus 190 as home favorites. They opened minus 160 in this game. Let's keep that in mind. This is a 30-cent move on the Blackhawks here in this game. Total 5.5. I understand what everybody is seeing here. We know Chicago lost last night to the Detroit Red Wings. All this praise we gave Malcolm Subban and kind of not his best effort last night. A couple of those weren't his fault, but a situation where it wasn't his best last night in net against the Red Wings. They gave Kevin Lankinen a rest. I would expect Lankinen back in tonight. It's probably good for him to get this rest. He's played a lot, and you could see he was wearing down a bit. He's been giving up a few more goals, been a little bit leaky back there the last few games, but I think the rest is going to help. This Detroit Red Wings team still very much a banged-up hockey team. Dylan Larkin injured right now. The captain of the team, one of the premier catalysts offensively of this group, Tyler Bertuzzi, out as well. But they got other guys stepping up last night, helping out offensively. If you saw on your score alerts like I did, that Svechnikov, and obviously not the Carolina Svechnikov, but Evgeny Svechnikov scoring a goal from the fourth line last night for the Detroit Red Wings against the Blackhawks. But what's been impressive for Detroit in these games they've won, Larkin being out, Bertuzzi being out, Bobby Ryan scores a big goal, Robbie Fabry's been pretty good, Nemesnikov scored, and Sam Gagner, of all people. Sam Gagner is just all of a sudden found the fountain of youth in his last few games for the Detroit Red Wings. He has gotten on the scoreboard multiple games for this Red Wings team, and that's good to see. A lot of people say Sam Gagner is a really good teammate. So good to see him having some success here in the twilight of his career. He's definitely given this Detroit Red Wings team offensively a shot in the arm, no question about that. But this to me looks like a good bounce back situation for Chicago. You look at the Detroit Red Wings for the season overall, and what's the one common denominator we've seen from Detroit? Where are the win streaks? Where are the win streaks for the Detroit Red Wings? That's always the concern. And when you've got these, bottom rung teams, bottom feeder teams like the Detroit Red Wings, you really want to trust them to really put a win streak together. I believe the win last night against Chicago was the first time all year they had won 2 games in a row because they beat Nashville the game before that. But other than that, they had always lost following a win. Now they're playing a Chicago team, second night of back-to-back games. I'd expect Chicago to play a lot better. Obviously, the price is not good on the money line, but I think what you can do is go down to about minus 115, minus 120 with Chicago in regulation. There's a lot of these sides that I like today. Philly, Chicago, but the money line price is just too high. You've got to trim it down some way. You either have to do the puck line or you got to go regulation. And for me, it's going to be Chicago here in regulation. In this game, you can get that around minus 115 here in this matchup against Detroit. I think they'll end up bouncing back and getting the victory here. Alex, what's your thoughts here with the Red Wings and Blackhawks?
Yeah, I mean, this line move makes sense, obviously. The 30-cent move from the open makes sense, especially when you look at the goalie confirmation, from Subban to Lankinen. If you go on our Patreon page, patreon.com/Ice Guys, I have the goalie rankings. I'll have them updated around 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock Central Time. But that's the drop off. Even with Subban playing well, I have it as a 25-cent difference between him and Lankinen right now. But this line was too high to begin with at minus 160, in my opinion. Even with the fact that it's a second night of back-to-backs, and it was a close game for the first 25, 26 minutes of play. Hawks end up tying it, and then all of a sudden, it was about 16 seconds later, they give up a goal, and then they go on take a bad penalty. Detroit scores on a power play, make it 3-1, and it was just kind of open the floodgates from there. So I do think this is a good bounce back spot for the Hawks tonight. But the way I would have to attack this would probably be playing this early, live, looking for something around the 5-minute mark, 10-minute TV timeout mark to hopefully get a better price. Usually these teams kind of tend to start slow. So if we get a scoreless, even say the Hawks go down 1 goal, I wouldn't be, scared to look to back Chicago in that spot, coming back and getting a better price. But even laying $1.20 in regulation is a bit high. One good thing is, like you said, lengthening, getting some rest, and this team is going to get some rest as well after this game. They won't play until Thursday. They start a 3-game weekend set at home against Tampa Bay, so they're going to try to empty the gas tank as much as possible to try to get a bounce back win here. So it's a lean with Chicago, but I would say look for something in game as opposed to playing a higher price on regulation.
Yeah, definitely. Again, regulation even right now, it was -110. There's some spots -115, even -120 with regulation right now. So you might want to do what Alex does if you like Chicago. Maybe wait, get a better price live in game. I talked about Columbus, Nashville, how Columbus kind of deserved a better fate yesterday. You could really say that about Chicago, believe it or not, yesterday. You look at these margins, again, 5-3 Detroit last night. Expected goal margin, though, was 3.16 to 1.89 in favor of Chicago. A whopping margin. That is a margin that tells you Chicago actually dominated, in terms of quality chances, good looks at the net. The fact that they scored, the fact that Detroit only generated 1.89 expected goal margin tells you it was a weak night for the Chicago defense. And Subban in particular in net. That's what it tells you, because the fact that they got 5 goals when their expected goals for the hockey game was 1.89, something's off there. Something's definitely off there. Chicago had the better of the play. High danger chance advantage for Chicago last night was 16-9, in favor of the Blackhawks. So that's not small margins. You see games where there's like a difference of 2 in the high danger chances, or maybe a 0.4 or a 0.5 difference in the expected goal margin. This is like a 1.3 difference in expected goal margin in favor of Chicago last night, even though they lost 5-3, and a 16-9 edge for them in the high danger chances. So it tells you that, yeah, they lost the game, but it's not like Chicago was garbage. It's not like they played an absolutely terrible hockey game. In fact, they were probably a little bit unfortunate. A fool's gold kind of victory, if you ask me, for the Detroit Red Wings. So another reason why I think Chicago's worth the look here in the rematch bounce back situation tonight on Sunday night. All right, good stuff. Before, actually, you know what? We didn't get to this at the start of the show, so we'll do it at the end of the show before we get to best bets. A brief look back on last night, the Saturday NHL action. I thought the Leafs, that was as complete a game as I've seen them play all year. Outstanding job. Goaltender out. The goaltender, Jack Campbell, was outstanding. But the defense was great. They all pull up their bootstraps. First game without Austin Matthews. And I hope Clint, who's one of our loyal viewers and does a great job with UFC breakdowns and analysis as well. He was talking about I don't understand the line move to Edmonton. I said Matthews is out. That's why. I hope that didn't shy him away from Toronto, because I often like backing teams, without the key player in that first game. They all pull up their bootstraps. They all, take it on themselves that, hey, we're not just a team about Austin Matthews. We're the Toronto Maple Leafs. We're a damn good hockey team overall. We can win without him. And that's exactly what they did. They played an outstanding game. Give them credit. Lots of craziness last night. Montreal Canadiens now 0-2 in the Dominic Ducharme era. They lose in overtime. Much better game, though. They probably deserved the win. And Jake Allen was certainly much better than Carey Price has been lately. Where does Dominic Ducharme go with the goaltending after that? That remains to be seen. The Florida Panthers almost did it again last night. Comeback against Carolina, although Carolina ends up surviving and winning in a shootout. But now that's 2 games in a row, and that's more than that. There were other games earlier in the season where the Florida Panthers have rallied from a deficit, and they stick to it. No quitting this hockey team. Really impressed with Florida, even in defeat last night against the Carolina Hurricanes. And we've got to talk about the Wild West shootout at the OK Corral that was the Shark Tank last night with the Blues and the Sharks. 7-6. It was ping pong, essentially, back and forth on the ice last night, highlighted, of course, by Just a really incredible moment in that game where Jordan Binnington gets pulled. I don't know, and the Blues and Craig Berube and none of the Blues players, none of the Sharks players said in the post-game press conference, none of them said or revealed if anything was said by a Sharks player to Jordan Binnington as he was skating down the ice after getting pulled. I would assume so. I would hope so. Because if nobody says anything to Jordan Binnington and he's just going around there pushing guys and, clubbing them in the chops with his goal stick like he did to Carlson on the way by, that tells you that maybe he's gone a little Coco Loco there last night. But if you didn't see it, he basically gets pulled. He's skating down into the neutral zone. He ends up turning back, going to where the San Jose bench is, and pushes someone there. He then turns around, skates to to go off the ice, then gives Erik Karlsson a little poke in the chops with his goal stick. And then Devin Dubnyk got the ire of Devin Dubnyk, him doing that. So he got out of his crease and went up to Binnington, and they pushed and shoved a little bit. And then Binnington finally leaves the ice. So it was a pretty crazy scene, but not surprised to see that. Binnington is a very fiery, laser-focused guy, and apparently if you start to, get in his face, say something to him, or push him, or bump him in the crease, we've seen him get with a temper. He's got a short fuse, this guy, and we kind of saw that last night against the San Jose Sharks. The Blues get a much-needed win. They're decimated to shit right now, this Blues team, with injuries up front. The blue line, Carl Gunnarsson is a huge loss on the blue line defensively, one of their better shutdown defensemen. I'm not going to say they're going to be in a 7-6 track meet, obviously, every night without Gunnarsson because he's out the rest of the season. But I am saying that St. Louis might have to score a little bit more moving forward because that is a big absence for them on defense. Alex, anything from you that stuck out, and any thoughts from Saturday night's NHL action?
Yeah, I just wanted to make a quick note too. Boston just scored to make it 2-0 in that game. Still in the first period, so I grabbed the next to goal score prop and cashed that as well. So, like I said, yeah, it was just a kind of a wild night for Saturday. I mean, I guess we kind of expected to see some of the unexpected. When you have 14 games, usually those big card nights will have some crazy endings and finishes and different things. Like you said, the Sharks Blues game was the most entertaining by far. I know a lot of people on Twitter said it was, they weren't a fan of it. And I know some people who don't like to see these big high scoring affairs and stuff that, lack of defense and bad goaltending, but it's not too bad every once in a while. You don't want it to be a regular occurrence, obviously, but late at night on a Saturday, I'd rather watch a 7-6 battle than a 1-0 or 2-1 kind of snooze fest. So, and like you said, with Binnington, he's the kind of guy, like I said, he's very emotional. We've seen him in a couple of interviews and different things where, if he's starting to get a little rattled, and I understand it, this whole team's probably getting rattled right now. Like I said, with all the injuries mounting and the losses, they know what division they're in. They know that the teams that they have to face, things are going south of them pretty quickly. So I would only take that win with a bit of a grain of salt. I might even look to fade St. Louis again in their next game, potentially, because like I said, that just was a really sloppy outing by them, even though they were able to get the win. I mean, it's also, you got to look at who they played. San Jose, not that great of a club. Like you mentioned, we talked about with the Hawks how the bad fortune they had. They were playing solid hockey, and then all of a sudden the floodgates opened up for Detroit. We've seen it with a couple teams, like you said, in Montreal as well. That really bummed me out. I was on Montreal in regulation, for them to lose that one in overtime. But like I said, Ducharme's got to look at giving Jake Allen the start moving forward, making him the number one guy, because he clearly played better than what Price did in his last couple of outings. So that's something to definitely keep a note of. And like I said, I'll be adjusting my goalie rankings on Patreon in the next couple of hours. So I'll have those updated to reflect it, as well as the injuries we talked about with Buffalo and Columbus and sorts.
All right, good stuff. And yeah, Terry Edelman, calm down. I mean, I know your Wild are playing well. I understand that, but last night was LA. I mean, and that was a good win. Though they're playing great. I don't want to take everything away from them, but I'll mention them in a Saturday recap when they're beating Colorado, like they did a few weeks ago, or when they're beating St. Louis, or they're beating, an upper echelon team in the NHL. But it was a good win again for Minnesota, and they're playing the 6 wins in a row now for the Minnesota Wild. Great hockey. Kirill the Thrill Kaprizov. I mean, every night he's dashing and end-to-end rushes and great passing and great release. I mean, this kid, it's something to get excited about finally here in Minnesota.
Yeah. And the biggest thing too is, like, and I mentioned it on Twitter last night, This is the cleanest passing Wild team I've ever seen. I've lived up here 12 years. They finally have that figured out where they can move the puck, around. They had all the talent in the world years ago when Parise and Suter came in, and they still had healthy Gabrick. They still had healthy Koivu. They just weren't getting things, situated properly. Like I said, and that was the thing, especially in their power play. They'd make the extra pass, or it'd be sloppy passes. Now they're moving the puck well, and that opens up the ice for all these guys. And they're a great skating team. They have been for years. So now they're putting it together offensively. McCacken, has seemingly taking that number one role now, and you have a solid backup in Cantal. But this is a Wild team to really be on the lookout for, especially with Colorado and St. Louis kind of trending downward a little bit at times. Vegas not having the amount of offense, and they're going to be playing Vegas this week. So really interested to see how the Wild and Knights shape up in their meetings. But this is a Wild team that's definitely on the rise right now.
There you go. When they play Vegas, and if they beat Vegas, Terry, we'll give props props among props for the Minnesota Wild if they play well later this week against the Vegas Golden Knights. No question about that. But no, there's a lot to like. Like this team was just was like watching paint dry to watch Minnesota Wild hockey for so many years, and to see some skill, some flash, some dash, some speed, some talent, some vision, some passing, some crisp playmaking. All of this stuff. Like, where the hell was it for years for the Minnesota Wild? And we're seeing it right now, and it's been good to see. They filled the back of the net. Zuccarello's now that he's healthy, he's playing well. Joel Eriksson-Ek has been, revelation for them. I don't think they expected this kind of offense out of him this year.
Yeah.
He's been great.
Yeah, I mean, not at all, really. I mean, he was truly just kind of a defensive forward, kill penalties, back check well. No one expected him to really kind of develop this kind of a two-way game right now. He's definitely a guy who's going to be on the rise. And, give props to Coach Dean Evison. I think he's got to be in line to be one of the finalists for the Adams Award at the end of the year. He has really turned things around. Like the culture of this whole team has changed since he's taken the helm. And, it's going to be interesting once, they're starting to let fans back in. I think March 3rd is when they're going to be about 10% capacity, 15% capacity. That's going to really amp things up for the Wild, because this is a team where if this was a packed house every night, that game last night, ending on a buzzer beater, the downtown here would have been going nuts with that game, and that momentum with the fans would really be carrying over even more so than they're playing right now. So, like I said, things are looking really bright right now for the Wild.
Yeah, when things are good and things are really going well for the Minnesota Wild, that city gets into it. There's no question about that. And they've definitely got a little – you know what? Dean Evison was a fierce competitor, tough as nails. He could play a little bit too in his playing days. But what Dean Evison, I think, has brought to this Minnesota team more than anything is the board battles, the one-on-one puck battles, the tenacity to say, I'm going to take the puck, you're not, from me.
Yep.
That they've done a better job with. They're just harder to play against, harder team, tougher team to play against. The puck battles, the board battles, just the grunt work, and you need some of that. You can have all the skill and the talent, the passing, the ability to finish around the net as you want. If you don't have that will to say, you know what, it's a one-on-one battle for a loose puck. I'm getting it. You're not. Minnesota's got a lot more of that, and they're winning a lot more of those battles now.
And one last thing I'll say about this too is that this is a really big step for them as well, because when they get back in the Central Division next year, keep in mind everything will kind of reset to what we saw in the years previous, and then they add in Arizona. They're going to be kind of tested well to play in that kind of style, because the physicality that they're facing against the teams like Colorado, who will be also back in the division, but the Vegas and the LAs and the Anaheims. When you can beat those teams, look back with the Hawks in the last decade, when they were able to beat those West Coast teams who played them physical and beat them up, but they were still able to find ways to match the physicality just enough, and then of course use their skill and speed to win. That's a great advantage for the Wild to kind of get some. I think that's something we're gonna have to look at moving forward next season. Is how did the division realignment for this year help teams for next year? I think, for example, the North Division, things might go south for a lot of those Canadian teams because they're playing one another. When they get back to being in the Atlantic with the Tampa Bays and Bostons of the world, things might be a little different. But I think some of these Central Division teams, the Western Division teams that, right now will be, looking a little bit sharper because they've had to play a different style of hockey for the most part in that Western Division.
All right. Yeah, that's a good point, actually. There's definitely some truth to that. And it'll be interesting to see how that schedule works itself out. And if it does make that impact, it definitely has the potential to, no question. So there we go. A little Minnesota Wild talk for Terry, one of our loyal viewers. I know he appreciates it. 5 minutes of Minnesota Wild chatter. But hey, they've earned it. They have played well. 6 wins in a row for the Minnesota Wild. And again, Colorado, a nice win against them for one of those wins as well. All right, before we get to best bets for this Sunday NHL slate, we've got to take care of business here for the Hockey Podcast Network. To remind you, as always, download the DraftKings Sportsbook app, sign up for an account, and when you do, use the promo code THPN, which of course stands for the Hockey Podcast Network. You'll get a sign-up bonus. There's weekly specials. You have the opportunity to get bet boosts and bet bonuses as well. All kinds of inside deals and bonuses at your disposal. All you got to do, download the DraftKings Sportsbook app, sign up, and use the promo code THPN. All right, best bet time for this Sunday. How about a 3-0 sweep for best bets on the Saturday show yesterday? We all got it done. Alex had the over in the first period with Kings Wild. Jimmy had a great call with the Habs Jets under. That was a no sweat. Obviously, Blues Sharks, no sweat. Over 5.5 in a 7-6 game. That's always nice to see. Hopefully, we can bring you an encore today with the best bets. Alex, what do you got for your best bet today?
I'm going with the Flyers in regulation minus $1.10, and I liked this one enough yesterday, almost making the best bet, but I just kept it as a regular play in a cash. And like I said, this is a tale of two teams going in opposite directions. Flyers getting healthy, moving upward, and the Sabres are dealing with the injury bug and trending downward. So I think it's a great price here for Philly to make it 2 in a row. Go with the best bet in regulation.
Yeah, I mean, we're just treating the Sabres like that human pinata right now. We're just taking that stick and whacking them while they're down right now. And it's tough times right now for the Buffalo Sabres. And I wish I could tell you guys in the chat about Jack Eichel, since Alex mentioned that as his best bet, Philadelphia in regulation. I don't have an update. All we know is that he's day to day. They're evaluating it day by day. They said he's only out. They only ruled him out for yesterday's game. They didn't say for sure, he's out for Sunday's game as well. And so we don't have that update yet. I would say that probably by the time we get to the pregame skate around, which is about 30 minutes before puck drop, it's probably when we'll have a better indication of whether Eichel is in or not. But it is a day-to-day thing for him with his lower body injury. So Alex is on Philadelphia, minus 115 in regulation for his best bet. Mine is going to be also a regulation play, but mine's going to be the night game. It's Chicago. We're going with Alex's Blackhawks tonight in regulation, minus 110 against Detroit. I don't trust Detroit to win 3 in a row. Hell, they haven't done that all year. And again, when you look at last night's 5-3 win for Detroit, you look at some really shabby advanced numbers in that game, which point to maybe a game that should have had a different outcome. Chicago dominating high danger chances, Chicago dominating the expected goal margin. I think they get the bounce back win tonight. We're going with Chicago in regulation, minus 110 against Detroit for my best bet on this Saturday, or on this Sunday, I should say, NHL card. And that'll wrap up the show. Thank you to everyone for tuning in live on YouTube. A reminder, 7 days a week. We're the only NHL show that's on 7 days a week from a betting standpoint. Monday to Friday, 2 p.m. Eastern, live on our YouTube channel. And also Saturday, Sunday, noon Eastern on our YouTube channel. And if you can't watch the show live, you can download the Ice Guys in audio podcast form on all major podcast providers. For Alex B. Smith, I'm Ian Cameron. Have a great Sunday. Enjoy the games and good luck. And we'll talk to you again tomorrow on Monday for another edition of the Ice Guys presented by the Hockey Podcast Network.